Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're working on this little Poulan 3314 chainsaw. Now, it's another one of those that just sat around for a couple of years. After the first year, it wouldn't start, so they put it off in a corner and it gathered dust. When that happens, you know the carburetor is going to be a mess, and you might have to replace the fuel lines and the primer bulb also. So we're going to go ahead and go through that on this one and get her running. So let's get started. So she's a little bit dusty, but we'll get to that later. First thing we're going to do is pull the top cover off. And no matter what brand your chainsaw is, it's almost always the same 3 screws. Then you make sure that this is pushed forward, and your cover should pop right off. No, it should anyway. There we go. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab our, what are we grabbing here? 5/16. We're going to grab our 5/16 bit. Pull the two nuts holding the carburetor on. And make sure you've got a nice organized workspace before you get started on something like this, because it's super easy to lose all these little nuts and bolts. So we're going to put these over here. Now always get a good look at the cover, because from one to the next it's hard to tell if there might be an extra screw. Even on the sides here, there might be an extra screw holding this cover on. You don't want to accidentally break your cover, because then you're spending more money. Okay, once you got the airbox cover out of the way, we'll go ahead and slide the carburetor a little bit off. But first, the linkage. The linkage can be very different between one to the next. Take a picture of this and make sure you know exactly how it goes together. And in this one, that's it. And your linkage comes off. So we're going to take this off and put it someplace where we won't lose it. Keep it with the nuts. And our carburetor's out of the way. So now we'll take a good look at our gaskets. Take a look at our carburetor itself. This is a pretty easy little rebuild, but you got to pull this plate off first. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's take a look at our fuel lines. Our fuel lines are a mess on this one, so we're going to go ahead and pull some new lines. We're going to use this to pull our lines. So I'll go ahead and get the lines pulled, and then we'll come back. On chainsaws, I've had a couple of requests on which line goes where, goes how to the primer. So we'll touch on that part. First thing we're going to do is we got the old lines out of the way, and you've got a smaller hole, which is the fuel incoming line, and a larger hole. Now the fuel incoming line goes straight to the carburetor, and which side it goes to depends on your carburetor itself. We'll do that one first. And this little wire tool came from a kit that I got when I bought a bunch of fuel line. If you rebuild a carburetor, a lot of times you can get that as part of the kit. And if you get a replacement carburetor and don't want to go through the effort of rebuilding it, then you can get one with that too. But once you get the hang of it, it's a tool you just wouldn't want to give up. So you got that tapered. I'm going to pull it back through the hole very carefully. You notice the diameter on these fuel lines is hugely different from the return line to the incoming line. And don't worry, you'll get plenty of gas through it. So now what we'll do is we'll attach a filter on this end. Let me find us a new filter. We'll go with a similar filter, just new. And this can be tricky because it's a small fuel line and a big air filter, or a big fuel filter. Come on, buddy. But make sure you got it on nice and super tight like that. See, that's not going anywhere. Now we'll lay it inside the tank and pull our slack back through this way. And pay attention, and remember, this chainsaw is going to run like this a lot. Because that's how chainsaws live. They live sideways. So we're going to make sure the fuel filter is laying in a way where it's happy laying on that side of the tank. And there it goes. It's laying against the backside, and I've got just enough of a loop here to hold it there. You don't want to cut this too short. This one goes straight into the carburetor. But once you're done, you can't cut it longer. You can cut it shorter. So now let's take the other one, and we're going to rinse and repeat. Okay, for the line that goes to the primer bulb, I'm going to find a little hole in the tank. And this one can be a pain in the neck to fish through. So we're going to watch it come through. We're going to watch it come through. And there it is. We steer it through the hole. On this one, we're making a nice long taper because these can be tricky to pull back through. The little one usually pulls through a lot easier than the return line. And here it comes. Put our light weight here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, guys, where are you at? And it pulled off. And there it goes. We got just the end of it. We just caught that one. Pull her through, make sure she's got tons of slack. Actually, now we're going to pull this one backwards a little bit. Come on, buddy, pull backwards. That doesn't matter. I can pull it through. We're going to cut this one short here. Now I'm going to pay attention and keep pulling it through so that it's inside the tank, but it's not terribly deep inside the tank. And there you go. I don't know if you can see this. Let's find you some light. There you go. So you can see it's inside the tank with about 1.5 inches or so to spare. Okay, now that we've got that part done, let's go ahead and rebuild the carb. Now for this particular style carb, first thing you do is take the backing plate off. And that's just those 2 screws, easy peasy. Pull the linkage off, and I'll keep this together. I'll try to pull the gaskets off and save them, but we do have spare gaskets just in case. Yeah, these gaskets aren't savable. Now that one might be. Okay, next up, we'll go ahead and pull the base off. And this is usually your culprit right here. It's your fuel gasket right here. You see it's got a bulge right here, and a little bulge here. And that's just simply time. Time and ethanol fuel facing it for a long time will kill them off. So let's pull our metering diaphragm out and see what we got. Now, the carburetor itself can get old fuel, can just gum up the insides. So if you're doing yours, if you've got an ultrasonic, you know what to do. Do it in the ultrasonic. I use 10% pine sol and 90% distilled water. And you can use whatever cleaner works. I like the pine sol because the pine sol doesn't tend to let the aluminum stain. Some cleaners will turn the aluminum really dark. We're looking at the metering diaphragm. You can see the little seams here and here. So that looks like, yeah, it's probably done. And you'll note that the gasket goes towards the carburetor. It's gasket, then diaphragm. Okay, I'm going to soak this through the ultrasonic and we'll be back shortly. Okay, when you're ordering new parts, be super picky. Make sure that your new gasket has exactly every little curve and every little hole, matches completely. And make sure that your fuel gasket is the same way. It has to be completely identical. You need to be able to lay one on top of the other and line up every single hole. And then flip it the other way to make sure that there are no additional holes on your new gasket. Okay, to put it back together, the first thing we'll do is add our metering diaphragm gasket. Then we'll add our metering diaphragm. Get everything lined up nice. And take your time, and notice we cleaned the bench up. We cut all the dirt off the bench in between. That way we don't have to worry about introducing problems. We don't want to add dirt to the carburetor as we go. Then you'll think you failed. Okay, there's one. I think that's a little cockamamie, but it'll hold for the moment to keep the rest of them lined up. Notice we're just getting the screw started right off the bat. We're not tightening anything down until we get all 4 screws in. So anybody that's done this before knows with a gasket like that, it can tighten in funny and have a little warp, and it'll have a mystery leak later. Okay, where you at? There you go, that one's in. I'll back the original one back out. Get her in. Very nice, very nice, very nice, very nice. Looks good. Notice we're going around in a circle when we tighten. I'll make sure they're tight the way around. And that should do that. Now the fun part. You get gasket. You got pins here. It'll make it a little easier to align everything. So put that on the pin. Now put our fuel gasket on the pin. And be super careful. Some of them you can put on this way. But you want to make sure that your gasket and your diaphragm all lines up right. And when we do this part, you're going to discover you're going to want to hold the throttle just a little bit. I'll show you why. This is your idle screw, and it's going to be bumping this. So if you use one finger to hold the throttle, open just a little bit. There you go. See, that's bumping right there. So that would have been in our way. I see so many people tell me stories of horror when they buy a new carburetor, and quote unquote, the carburetor's the wrong one, they sent them the wrong one and all that. Yeah, whenever you hear one of those stories, you can just sort of smile at them and say, yeah, okay. Okay, now the fun part, getting everything lined up correctly. There you go, that's good. Let's get our gasket in place and watch our screw holes. There you go, that looks pretty close. And you just about use the little holes for alignment on these. You can see everything's scooting around. So don't try to push your screw through. Notice we're putting no effort at all into screwing this. Now I'll put a little effort into it. Just because that way we know that the screw didn't get forced through the gasket, or it didn't nick the edge of the gasket and make an air leak. Then all of a sudden she's running lean and you don't know why. Okay, let's go over and put a new frontal bulb on. Okay, we're going back to our T25 for this one. We take the case screws off. And almost every store brand chainsaw you find is going to have the same screws in the same places. You see a primer bulb. There's a couple of different kinds. You got some primer bulbs that actually screw to the case here, and you got others that just clip in. This particular one is just one that just clips in. I'm going to pop the old one out of the way. You don't have to be nice to it because you're not going to keep it anyway. There we go. Okay, if you remember when we put the fuel lines in, this is our fuel line, this is our return line. So our return line is going to go to the longer stem here. And now we know about how long we want it to be. We want to leave a little slack to make it easy to work with and to make sure it goes around the carburetor. Let's use this one. And we're going to attach it to the longer line here. There you go. And this is the vacuum line. This goes to the carburetor. Okay, and this is the vacuum side, the shorter stem. And this goes to the carburetor. So we'll put a line there. And with these two in place, we can go ahead and click the fuel line back in place, the fuel bulb. And it just clicks in like so. And now we've got the two lines that actually go to the carburetor. Okay, now we're ready to go. Now we're going to put the gas lines back on where they were originally. We're going to put the fuel on this side. And if you took lots of pictures when you started, this part will be pretty easy. We'll double check. We've got the correct amount of slack everywhere. We've got our new gasket in place. So now we'll just slide it back together. That is the fun part. This always had entertainment value for me, getting this bar back on. But the trick, of course, is to accelerate a little and hold this out and just slide it back together. And there we go. Easy peasy. Okay, where's our air box? Let's put our air box back on, and we're ready to go. Perfect. Up, 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 up. We almost forgot one important thing. Choke lever. And since we're using the original carb, we know everything's going to fit together correctly and everything should work fine. Yeah, once you've got this on, this holds the choke lever in place, so you can't put the choke lever on. There we go. She fought me on the way off. She's fighting me on the way back in. Make sure it's nice and snug. And that should do it. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's take her over, put some fuel in it, and test it. Okay, it's been a little while since we've done a chainsaw, because we usually only do these in the winter time. So pull the choke out, and the choke closed, and it pulled the start lever up, so we know got all the linkage correct. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the way that one sounds. She revs real tight, and obviously the rebuild worked out nicely. Now, somebody adjusted the carburetor along the way, but that's for another video. Next Tuesday, we'll go ahead and go through the adjustment on this and fine-tuning the chainsaw to get it running just at peak performance. So, all you new people out there, if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. It's free, and it's what we work for. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.